visualize phase, you try to understand the user's requirements, whom you're trying to design for and what is important to them. In the define phase, you capture all those different insights into a set of meaningful requirements. Now that we have a meaningful requirement, we now are going into the ideate phase. In the ideate phase, it's all about generating as many ideas as possible, trying to look at what is important, how can we solve this problem, and trying to capture each and every idea that we have. So that becomes the objective of the ideate phase, to brainstorm on brainstorm upon the requirement that you have and what is the best way in which you can solve this particular desirable and feasible and viable solutions. So that becomes the objective of the ideate phase. And for the better ideation, a practice like a principle like openness to radical collaboration could be quite handy. So therefore, what happens is that we want to get different solutions. We want to involve different people from different walks of life, kind of a thing. Actually, when I do the design thinking workshops for companies, we get people from, let's say from the CEO level, from the finance department, from the HR department, and so on and so forth, because you do not know where you will get the better ideas, kind of a thing. Right? And that's one. Second is that when we come to a design thinking workshop, we come in as equals, kind of a thing. So there is a lot of a roundtable discussion that happens to generate ideas. In fact, when I do these sessions, I break up the teams into different groups and they work on the real problem. What we're doing now is that I've created a solution. I'm walking through that solution with you all, kind of a thing, but that's what they try to do. And everybody's treated as an equal when it comes to the ideation part of it. There was one good example that we did for Taj Hotels. So one of the problems that we have is that, so invariably, if you look at any of the business hotels, most of the executives, they land into the city, they go for a meeting, they come back, and maybe they come in the evening, or they might have dinner outside, or they might come back late night. And generally, all of us end up, ordering room service, kind of a thing. And when you order room service, our typical habit is that we eat the food in the room, and after we are done, we don't like the the smell of the stale food in our room, so we keep it outside. Right? That's what we tend to do, and the problem, as far as we are concerned, the problem is solved. But what happens? There's also another gentleman. He could also be a foreigner. He's got an early morning 3 o'clock flight to catch, and when he goes through it, there is food is smelling. It's a very ugly sight all through, kind of. And that was what we were trying to work for Taj Group of hotels. And when we did that exercise, we had people from the management, we had people from the housekeeping, the general manager, the floor manager. We also had the security guards and also the clearing boys, the cleaner boys, also part of the design thinking workshop. And the best solution came from the cleaner boy. He said that because most of them are not allowed to go for the last round of clear up after 10 o'clock, for example. Because you might be disturbing the customers, or it might be quite late, kind of a thing. So what is it, sir? Our last clearing happens only at 10 o'clock. Why don't you allow us one more clearing round at 12 o'clock, for example? And if you think that it is a security issue, or if you think that it's not nice to see cleaning boys all over the place, what you could do then, why don't we get a security guard along with us? And then accordingly, or if there are a lot of lady guests, you can even have a lady staff coming with us, escorting us, and so we'll do the clearing stuff. And that is how that solution got implemented. So ideation is all about being open to radical collaboration. It doesn't matter where the solution comes from. We want to get that solution, kind of a thing. We want to get as many ideas as possible. So that becomes the goal of the ideation. And that is what the openness to radical collaboration is all about, kind of a thing. Some of the, right. And as far as the practices are concerned in ideation, almost all the practices can be used in ideation, kind of thing. Okay, but the things that we will look at here is that we look at brainstorming, 6 thinking hats, and also the affinity diagrams and morphological analysis, and the how might we statements. So firstly, brainstorming, you're familiar with it. It's all about discussing, getting in as many ideas as possible, and making sure that we do. The difference in brainstorming in general and brainstorming in a design thinking context is that here, like I said, more ideas are better. No idea is a bad idea. No idea gets shot down because it came from person X or because it came from a person who's low in the hierarchy, kind of a thing. But every idea is given merit on an equal basis. If at all some idea is not so good, fine, fair enough. You park that idea and see if we can come back to it if it's required. But every idea is accepted, and this is one place where actually quantity rules the quality, kind of a thing. Six thinking hats, this is all about Edward D. Bono's six thinking hats. What it says is that when you do brainstorming, rather than floating all over the place with all sorts of ideas, what they do is that there are six hats. Each hat has got a certain meaning to it. So it's all color coded, for example. And it says blue hat is that somebody takes the role of a moderator or a facilitator. Like, so we need some referee, we need some umpire. So blue hat is that. Then they go through one hat at a time. Says, okay, for the next 5 minutes, we will discuss only green hat. We will discuss only the positives of it. For the next after that, we will discuss only the negatives or the black hat. So what six thinking hats gives us is that it gives a structure to our discussion, kind of a thing. So that could also be applied along with brainstorming. So that's the six thinking. To break. That's the six thinking hats. The morphological analysis, it's all about you look at the bigger problem and try to break it down into smaller problems, kind of a thing. So the whole goal is that if I'm able to solve 1, 2, 3 small problems, collectively the three solutions can be considered to create a larger solution to solve the bigger problem, kind of a thing. So that's what the morphology, it's all about disaggregation, kind of a thing, right? On the opposite of this one is the affinity. Sorry, this is how might we probably let me. The affinity diagrams is the opposite of it. What it says is that suppose I get an idea saying that this is a solution, and somebody else gives me an idea. Then we try to see, is this idea similar to this particular previous idea? Then we put those two ideas together. Like, so you're trying to aggregate them, group them in some form so that you can solve a collective group of problems together with one solution. So the morphological analysis is all about disaggregation, splitting it up, and affinity diagrams is all about aggregation or combining them. How might we statements is a simple rule. It says that for every problem statement that we have, can I prefix this word, how might we? Okay, it can even be a simple thing like how might we solve the traffic problems of Vizag roads, for example. So that's a problem. Just by prefixing that, it will make us think about various ideas together, kind of a thing. So that's how. So these are the four practices that we can think about. Now let's say okay, sorry. Right. So if you look at the reimagining of a brainstorming session, for example, think about all the different things that we thought about in the earlier part. Like, okay, we were talking about uninterested students or routine teaching, or we were talking about how do you make get more flexibility into that. So there are several such ideas that are possible that might come together, and we design thinking uses a lot of these post-its together which come together as a different avenues, kind of a thing. So there is some of the insights that we got is that the learning so far has been only in local languages, kind of a thing. The students are looking for a good job because they want to support their families financially and contribute to the EMIs, for example. Or the management is saying that how can I get more corporates to sponsor a course and come in, kind of a thing. So all of these are different ideas that pop up as far as to see how we can reimagine thinking to reignite learning, kind of. So we capture all of these ideas together, and then now we'll try and see how we can look at this together. Now the same idea, suppose if I was using a six thinking hats, for example, when it says the blue hat is all about the leader or the moderator, kind of a thing. So let's say in this case, it could be the principal or the management who is there, who looks at that, kind of a thing, right? And then, so for a white hat thinking could be in terms of, how do we take care of the low income group? It's a white hat thinking is a fact, kind of a thing. So if we know that most of our students are coming from the low income group, so that becomes a fact. Okay, I need to keep that in mind if I want to devise certain program. There's no point, creating, let's say, extra classes or getting somebody from outside and saying that there is an additional fee for it, kind of a thing. So here is some insight that I got. I want to make sure that I keep that in mind when I look at some problem. So the black hat thinking talks about something. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, the black hat thinking is all about the pains that are there. Just give me a minute, I'll come back to this. It's all about there are students have education loans that are pending, kind of a thing. Red hat thinking is all about a different thing. How do you make the classes more interesting? Okay, green hat is created. How do we increase attendance, for example? That's what it talks about. And a yellow hat could be more in terms of how do we, it's a fact that it is there and people are aware of it. So it could mean something like inherently all the students are hardworking, kind of. right? So these different hats give us, different sets of meanings, and it gives us so that it gives certain structure. So what we've seen in the brainstorming session, it came up with several ideas together. And when you use a six thinking hats, you capture the same information probably in a little bit more structured way, kind of a thing, right? So that is what happens in the ideate phase. Now, that's what happens with respect to the six thinking hats. Now, when I come to the morphological analysis, here it is all about breaking down the problems into different groups or different things. Suppose if I want to look at it from a student versus faculty kind of a thing. So if you look at the faculty, for example, we are saying that the teaching skills are probably a little bit routine kind of a thing. Okay, what are the academic credentials? Maybe we don't encourage research so much. Maybe there is limited publications that are available. Or if you want to look at the career aspirations that are there, the faculty's career aspirations is only about the organic growth kind of a thing. How do I grow within the organization from lecturer to senior lecturer to HOD and so on and so forth? So that could be one thing. Some of the challenges that they face from an institute point of view is that I want to do so much, but here I don't get support from the management. We are more constrained by our compliance to the system and all that stuff. So that's what the faculty's view could be, kind of a thing. Or if you look at it from a student's point of view, then he thinks that the learning aptitude is very low from the students, kind of a thing. Language becomes one particular constraint. So that's one more data point that we have captured. But the career aspirations are very high. He wants to get a great job. He wants to get a good job, kind of a thing. Okay, and he feels that but how does he manage his learning? Probably he becomes only attendance driven, kind of a thing. He thinks that okay, just going to the class and coming is sufficient as far as it is concerned, kind of a thing. And from a family trans point of view, they are all from a local, the low income group, kind of thing. So what is happening here is that in morphological analysis, we try to create some form of a group. Here I created a group between student and faculty, and it gave me different insights. So what will if I look at these particular elements, then I can change my teaching, kind of thing. So if I now that I know that there is language as a constraint, so probably I'll try to teach, or maybe I'll give some examples and then talk to them in Telugu or in a local language and give them some examples, make it more comforting, or maybe slow down the pace of my talking so that they can write more, or give them time to make some notes or provide notes, kind of. So there are certain, now it gives you alternate ways of thinking, kind of a thing. So I can do a similar exercise to see between faculty and corporate, kind of a thing. So I can see why are institutes not coming to our campus for placement? Like what is the corporate requirement to make an employee employable, make a student employable, for example. So if you talk to the corporates, then you might get some insights to say that, look, in today's world, it's not so much about your knowledge, but I also can you do something about increasing their communication skills, for example. Okay, so people need to know how to talk, kind of a thing, how to express themselves. Even whether it is local or language, there's a certain element of thing that might come to this. Or if you talk to a corporate, some of the corporates could be your ex-students, your alumni, kind of a thing. So now alumni if you talk to the alumni, you will get different set of ideas. So they might say that, okay, look, you're teaching something, but whatever you're teaching doesn't apply in the workplace, kind of thing. So we need to change our curriculum, or we need to change our way of working or way of teaching, or select subjects which can be used more in the application. I mean, I remember even when we were doing engineering, I mean, I graduated in computer science, but in the first year of engineering, I graduated in computer science, but in the first year of engineering, I also did civil engineering, carrying the chains and doing some measurements also. There is no way that I would have used any of the chains, kind of thing, as a computer science graduate. But the subject that probably caught my attention and which I thought, and because I was in operations research, that's because when you are learning that subject, you also know that, okay, this is something that I can apply in my daily life. It talks about the PERT CPM networks. It talks about traveling sales, for example, and it's used. So when we reach out to the alumni, you might get different sets of ideas, kind of a thing. So all of these ideas you collect it together, so that will help us to build a better solution, a better solution that is workable, kind of a thing, right? So that's what all the ideation is all about, and that's what the morphological analysis helps us out, kind of a thing. Now, from the morphological analysis, suppose if you were to use something like, how might we make our students more attentive, for example? Okay. Now, to make our students more attentive, for example, maybe I've taken on the left circle, I've taken one of the things which says that maybe we need to conduct programs like this from a faculty development kind of a thing, or maybe we would want to make sure that there is an element of creativity that is brought in. Kind of thing. Can I make the teaching a little bit more practical kind of a thing, not just a theory classes, for example? Or you might look at a scenario which says that okay, practical teaching is one such example. Then there's another thing which was tried out I think it came in the news about a couple of months back. I think in Kerala, it did happen in a school, but I think it's applicable to any teaching institute. Is that what they changed is that they changed the classroom setting from rows of students, they made it into a full semicircular students kind of a. So the whole classroom became a big this thing, and the teacher was in the middle, and they were teaching, and she was teaching taking the class from the center, because that removes the whole taboo of a front bencher versus last bencher, or trying to figure out labeling others, and there might be psychologically something it is impacting. So they said a simple thing like just converting that seating arrangement from a rows to a semicircular or a round thing, where the teacher also can participate, walk around, and take care of it. Or that could be some of those techniques kind of a thing. Or the other example that we can take in terms of how might we is that the second one on the right side is more about how might we make our students more employable, for example. Okay, here is that suppose if I were to conduct some courses which is around developing the communication skills or developing soft skills, for example. So that could be one illustration. Or what if you invite your alumni? See, when if our ex-students come back and talk to us, it's more of a casual, conversations. It could be on the weekends or it could be on the evenings. They come and share their experience. They feel nice to come back to the institute kind of a thing. And the students also can gain from it. And these are very informal sessions. And it's not about formal subject or anything, but it's all to say that, okay, look, I've learned this, I've gone to the workplace. When you go to a workplace, what is it that you will see mostly kind of a thing? Okay, you need to stay 9 to 5. You have to stay in the office at 9 to 5. You can't go whichever way you want. Whenever you go to office, you need to make sure that you're dressed properly. Kind of simple inputs that you can get from the alumni also could be another way how you can make your students more employable kind of a thing, right? So these are all the things that you would learn in the ideate phase kind of a thing, right? Now, once again, the way we are progressed is that we looked at our stakeholders, we looked at our personas, we figured out what is it that each individual or each persona would require from it. We've got a lot of insights. Using those insights, we created our own problem. We defined a certain problem, and with that definition of the problem, then we went wide. We're trying to explore different solutions, different ideas, trying to group those ideas together, trying to get ideas one against the other, faculty versus student, faculty versus corporate, corporate versus student, so on and so forth. And we are trying to see how we can enhance that particular experience kind of a thing. So we broadly have some form of a solution at the end of a ideate phase kind of a thing. Now we want to, what happens in the next phase, in the prototype phase, is that you take this, whatever solution that you have created so far, is that you take it and try to experiment with it and see how it is working kind of a thing, right? For example, now we know that, okay, we want to make sure that we make the classrooms, we want to include practical teaching into our thing. We want to make sure that we are also developing some element of, practical teaching plus communication skills, soft skills, etc. We want to make sure that our financial position is taken care, language concern. So you have some idea as to how am I going to change my teaching mechanism right now, kind of a thing, from a faculty point of view. From a student point of view, also you got your alumni coming and tell you what is required. So therefore, now you're trying to say, oh, I need to attend the full classes. I need to be neatly dressed, kind of thing. I need to make sure that I talk loud, etc. So some form of a solution is shaping up in our mind at this point of time. Now we want to test this particular solution, even if it's a draft solution, and that is what prototyping it does, kind of a thing. It's all about bringing the user close to the final product. It's not yet a final product, but you want to bring the user to make him get a sense of what the final product would be like, kind of a thing. And that essentially in prototyping phase, you're testing the particular solution. And in prototyping, it's important that you don't fall in love with your first solution, kind of thing. You're doing this only because you want to make sure that you want to take it forward, see whether it is working, whether it's not working, and see how it is shaping up. What is it that I need to correct further in my own particular thinking? And the principle for that is that, like I said earlier, co-creating impactful solutions. Whenever we create a solution, for example, we want to make sure that we are all involved together in creating the solution, kind of thing. Suppose if you were to redrawing your curriculum and you're trying to create a new course kind of a thing, what is it that we typically do? We have a principal, we might have a HOD, or we might have a dean who's in charge of academic affairs, for example, and we have the concerned faculty. Only between us, we decide that, okay, this is what the course should be. This is a new course. It is gaining popularity. We want to do this particular course, and this is how it should be designed. I'm not going to change my evaluation mechanism. There'll be quizzes, there'll be classroom tests, there'll be midterm, end term, final exam, whatever. You're just trying to do that only within yourself. What if I ask you, like, why don't you get a corporate person to come and join that and see, okay, is this course, can the employee become more student become more employable if you conduct this course kind of a thing? Can I get the corporate person to be in it? Can I get the student? Or if not a student, at least can I get the alumni and say that we are introducing this new course? Do you think what is uptake for this particular course design? So many a time when parents send their children to engineering colleges, for example, I mean, their aspiration is that my son or daughter should get a nice job in an IT firm kind of thing. They want that. But at the same time, they're also saying, okay, IT companies work late hours, IT companies have night shifts, or if it's a BPO, it's a night shift. And especially for a girl child, they are apprehensive. I mean, not the younger one, but at least there is a parental apprehension that why should she be working late night and overnight and all that stuff kind of thing. So they might give you a different set of pointers kind of thing. Or what if you were to tell them that, okay, we'll find a day job, or we'll groom your careers to the HR path kind of thing. So something like that. The whole point is that, I want to co-create solutions, bringing the person of the problem also into that particular frame. That's the one which is all about co-creating. And as far as the practices are concerned, there is this nice thing called feedback capture grid. What it does, I mean, this is especially nice for services kind of a thing. See, because if it's a physical product, I can create a prototype. I want to create a new EV kind of a thing, so I might create a new battery, say that, see how it is running, how it is charging, etc. But what if I want to create a course? How do I test a course? I can't teach it and say, okay, it's not working, so I will reintroduce it next year. So what we do in this particular case is that we share what we have, and the feedback grid that is here, you share that solution with another. Let's say we have created a new course here. You can go to another polytechnic in probably another state or another thing, and check with them. This is what we have in mind. What do you think is nice here? Good, bad, ugly kind of a thing. So that's the kind of a feedback that you get. And with that, we try to see how we can improvise or make our course better. So for example, here it talks about what is it that I like kind of a thing. So like I said, now we said we'll involve different stakeholders kind of a thing. So the positive feedback you get is that I'm happy with the diverse stakeholders that you have picked up kind of a thing. What is it that you have is that it's more in terms of your wish list. You say that, okay, I wish management is more open to these new ideas. I wish management gives us more funding. That could be our wish list, for example, kind of a thing. What are the questions that you have in mind? Okay, like I said earlier, then the question that comes with that, can we also consider alumni to become part of the course design kind of a thing? Can we get them to talk to the students and see how it happens kind of a thing? Or different ideas. When you go to a different type of people, then you might get different sets of ideas as to saying that. For example, this is a polytechnic institutes here. Most of the engineering colleges, what they do is that the way the recruitment works is that an engineering graduate is taken on board, and then he's on the company's training program for the first 3 months, for example. And then he gets attached to a particular group. He can get attached to an insurance vertical or a banking vertical, etc. Then there might be some domain-specific training that happens. Or if it's a technology, he might get attached to the cybersecurity team or a cloud computing team. And there is that training that is involved. And then he's put on a project, and then that's when he becomes billable and you start to earn revenue. But the problem is that in this, the company is losing about a good 6 months window before the employee is made billable kind of a thing. So what the engineering students started, the company started, IT companies started to do is that in the third year or the final semester of the third year, 6th or 7th semester, they sponsored a course kind of. They said they will sponsor the cybersecurity course. They took a small entrance test. Whoever students are interested in the course, they have to clear that particular course test and they get admission into that. Then the cybersecurity is taught. The company represented, it is now taught in the way the company handles cybersecurity, not in a general one. Additionally, they're also taught how this particular company looks at cybersecurity solutions kind of a thing. And then at the end of the final year, they go through another round of interviews. and they are recruited on board kind of a thing. They have a higher chance of getting a job in that company because they cleared this test and because they've already completed their course kind of a thing. Now the advantage to the companies is that, so this student when he joins, he goes through the first 3 months of general training and he becomes billable after 3 months because he's already trained in the cybersecurity element of it even before he joined the company kind of thing. So the companies also are standing to gain. The student tends to gain because if he's taking this course, he's assured that, okay, my chances of getting a job in this company in my area of interest is much higher kind of a thing. So his hope, his promise also keeps increasing kind of a thing. So that's a feedback that you can get by using this feedback capture grid kind of a thing. So that's one way to look at it. Now, once we have this, so what we have done so far is that up to the prototype phase, we have a broad solution in mind. We have shared that solution with some of our peers, etc., and then we got a lot of feedback. Now we are trying to see how we can incorporate the test phase. We want to fine tune our product and to take it out to the test phase kind of a thing. In the test phase, the objective of the test phase is more in terms of taking the final product, and we want to make sure that whatever we have promised in the very beginning, okay, when we looked at the empathy map, what are the pains, what are the gains? Have we removed the pain that a particular individual has got from all the stakeholders? Or have we created some gain creators for this particular individual kind of a thing, or for this particular problem? So the testing is all about that. And the principle is all about you implement this problem and you iteratively keep on improvising upon it kind of a thing, right? So that's what it is done in the testing phase. That's the principle around it. And you implement and iteratively improvise upon it kind of thing. And it doesn't matter if there are errors or if there are problems kind of a thing. One can always come back and fix those problems all over again kind of a thing. So that's about implementing and iteratively improvising. And the practices here is that we can now look at the affinity diagram. Now here is an example of a practice. We've used the affinity diagram in the prototype phase also, and we're reusing it again in the test phase. There's nothing wrong with it. You can use any other thing. And the other one is the value proposition canvas. Right? So value proposition.